Hello, everybody. Welcome to another show of our Dutch Angular group. We're having a great speaker today talking about all things Annex. But before we go to our speaker, let's introduce our common panelist. Sander, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. I'm a little bit tired. It's the end of a year, the end of 2020, so I think I'm allowed.
So Bjorn, what is it? Is it 2 sessions already that you previously joined us?
2 sessions ago, I think I missed one, but happy to be back. Yeah, I mean, it's end of the year. It's busy for everyone, isn't it? So how are you doing, Jeff?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I think same as everybody. End of the year and working a lot and fixing everything to make 2020 a great end of 2020, probably. At least in the technique side. And as a speaker today, we got, and I hope I pronounce it correctly, Katerina from Greece, and I think near Athens already.
Yes, I'm in Athens.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm tired of 2020, and it's very tiring because we have a very strict lockdown. So it's very hard when you're alone in a house and you're not allowed to go out. So
yeah, it is.
Yeah, I can relate. I can relate.
Well, good that we have you right now and that we can hang out together and have some fun and share some knowledge together, right? That's the best thing we can do right now.
Yeah.
So do you want to share your screen and start the presentation?
Of course. Can you see my screen and my presentation?
Yeah, I think it's up. It's all up to you now.
Okay.
Take it away.
So bear with me if I am slow. I hope you don't mind. So, and you can hear me right, okay?
Yeah, you're perfect.
Okay, yeah. Every time when I give a talk online, and I don't see myself and I just see my screen, I'm very self-conscious. Am I getting across okay? So if there's, I need to just jump in.
Yeah, we'll just jump in when there is something.
Okay, so let's cut to the chase. Scalable apps with an X. So this is what we're going to talk about today. I'm Katerina. I'm a software engineer at Narwhal. Narwhal is the company who created an X. And a little bit about me. I'm also the Angular Athens meetup co-founder. I'm a Google developer expert for Angular, web technologies, and the Google Maps platform. I'm also a part of the program committee of the Vox Days Greece conference. I'm also a speaker, instructor, mentor, and a cut person. And I also climb mountains. This is me on top of Mount Olympus, the highest mountain in Greece. So today we'll talk about NX. What we'll talk about today, first we'll talk about what a monorepo is. Then we'll talk about what an X is. Is an X only for monorepos? Why use an X? And we'll see the features, and we'll see a demo, we'll see it in action. And if we have time, I will show you a small part of Jeff and I's presentation that we did in ngconf about incremental building with an X, but we'll only do that if we have time, okay? So what is a monorepo? So the text definition is that a monorepo is a single Git repository which contains all of your apps. So pretty scary, right? But some facts about it. It doesn't mean that it's a monolith. Multiple projects are in the same repo, but the projects depend on each other and share code. So you get to manage dependencies better. So the thing with some of the monorepos, the monorepos have some of the following benefits. Everything at the current commit works together. So you have to make sure that all your apps and all your dependencies work together. It's more easy to split code between composable modules. It's easier to do dependency management, and we'll see why, and we'll see how NX helps with that. And despite of common misconceptions, it gives you more deployment flexibility, and we'll also see about that. It allows you to set up precise ownership policies, and it gives you more structure to your source code. And it scales well using familiar tools. Also, some facts about it. Change does not mean that you have to rebuild or retest everything. You only rebuild or retest the affected code, and we'll see this actually in action with an X. Also, you get a lot of independence, contrary to popular belief, and you get consistency and predictability on your code. What is an X? An X is a set of powerful, extensible developer tools which help you scale your app and coordinate better with your team, which is good, right? So some facts about it. The big companies are using it, but you don't need to be operating at Google scale to see the benefits of an X. It can be a very powerful tool for projects of all sizes, and not just Angular, as you may think, but full-stack JavaScript in general as well. Plus, it's not only for monorepos, and you will see why today. You will see all the nice things that you can do with an X that do not only apply to a monorepo. So is it only for monorepos? We said that it's not. Why though? You have the NX CLI. The NX CLI indeed was built on top of the Angular CLI initially, but now it has evolved into a lot more things. You have tooling, you have schematics, you have workflow management, you have dependency management, and also you have the NX Cloud. And we'll see this one by one. Why use it then? The CLI. The CLI, probably since I'm speaking of the Dutch Angular group, I'm sure you're familiar with the Angular CLI. So what does the NX CLI generate apps? It helps you test them. It helps you run them, organize them. For example, if you can see my screen, you can create a workspace, much like you do NGNew, and page create NX workspace will create a whole new workspace for you, a monorepo workspace. And in there, you can generate a new application, for example, a new front-end application, but you can also generate a nest, a backend application for your front-end project. Then of course, you can generate components, but you can also run all your UAT tests, and then you can use the affected preset to build or test your application if you have changed something. But we'll see all these commands in more detail during the demo. Tooling, what is tooling? Some of the NX tools, one of the coolest tools for me is the dependency graph, and we will see it. It's also, it shows you all the dependencies between your different projects within the monorepo, and how one is dependent on the other, and how changing one may affect all the changes and rebuildings of the other projects. You have the affected one, which runs the dependency graph analysis and tells you which projects are affected when you change some projects. You have migrations, which is very cool. You can just run NX migrate from one version to the other, and it will actually generate some scripts that you can run in order to move from version to version. It also has prettier integration with NX format. It will run prettier across all your files in your project, which is pretty neat. You also have the NX report, which will tell you all the versions of the developer dependencies you're using. You have the move command, where you can you can rearrange your code by moving things from here and there and renaming folders. You can run many different applications in parallel. Also, we have the NX console for VS Code, which is actually the graphical user interface for the NX CLI. And I'm going to demo that for you because it's very, very easy to use, and it helps you if you don't like to remember CLI commands. I do, but I guess that not everybody likes it. And you have a lot of plugins. You have plugins for Storybook, for Jest, for React, for Next.js, for all new web development tools that are out there, all libraries, or I don't know what else. So schematics. Schematics, there is a schematic for anything you want to generate. The schematic library that NX offers is very, very extensible. Apart from generating applications and components, I mentioned Storybook. You can generate Storybook stories. It does not use right now the Storybook CLI, but it does help you create stories for all your libraries. You can also generate libraries, as I said. You can generate Next.js applications, or you can generate test suites. And you can do all these using the CLI or the NX console, as I said, but you can also, of course, write your own schematics that you can use. So if you don't like what NX generates for you, you can go and edit the existing schematics or create your own, which is pretty useful for a big corporation, for example. So workflow management. You can manage your workflow using an X. You can add all the tools you need and use them from within an X. Also, you can organize your tests, your builds, and your CI. Dependency management. You can manage your dependencies both internally and to external resources. You have the dependency graph, which we will see during the demo. You can manage also releases, and you can manage all the versions. As you may know, in an X, you have a single package JSON where all the versions of your external dependencies to other libraries and packages are all managed in order to keep a consistency between the different applications. So this is very, very useful because you don't get confused and, for example, have run Angular 9 in one application and Angular 10 in another application. It forces you and it enables you to be consistent and have everything in the same external dependent version. But also you can cut your own tags and have different versions as you release your code. The NX Cloud. What is the NX Cloud? And if we have time, we will talk about this during the incremental building part that I may talk about. So you can expand NX's local computation memoization to the cloud. What does that mean? If a team member has already built or tested similar code, NX will use the results to speed up the command instead of rebuilding or retesting everything from scratch. Let me explain this a little better, because when I first read about NX Cloud, I didn't really get it. So say I'm working on a big corporation and we're working on an NX workspace. And when you generate an NX workspace, it asks you if you want to use NX Cloud or not. And say I have chosen to enable and use NX Cloud. This means that when I build my application, it will take all the files that I have written and build them together and bundle them together, and they will get a hash ID, and this will be uploaded. And this will be uploaded to the NX Cloud. The hash reference, for example, and maybe the results, or not maybe, and the results of this build, they will be on NX Cloud. Now, say that a colleague of mine in an office, like 10 offices across, if we were still working in an actual office space, but now a colleague of mine across the world makes a small change to one small file that not a lot of other applications in the workspace depend on that file. And they run NX build on their own machine for the first time on their own machine. Since NX Cloud is enabled, NX will look up this whether the rest of their code has been built before. And they will find my instance of the build, my hash of the build. So they will use this, and they will only rebuild the code that was affected by their change using my already built builds. So this saves up a lot of time, because in any other case, my colleague would have to rebuild everything since it would be their first time on their machine. But now, since we have NX Cloud, it will use the cache of NX Cloud since they don't have local cache, which is pretty cool, in my opinion. And it speeds up a lot the builds and any other process, to be honest, the testing and linting. So let's see a demo. Let's go to the demo time. The first thing that we're going to see during the demo is what happens when you do npx create NX workspace. How it works. An interactive wizard. Let me go. I took a video of this workspace command because it helps me not be anxious. From
Yeah, sure.
Sorry? Okay.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
You can use the command as it is, and we will use it, and you will get an interactive wizard. Or you can pass some flags with some pre-selections here. But let's use the wizard to see how it works. We will go to our command line and do npx create NX workspace. Let's see what's happening here. And do some local installations. I'll name it my works, and it will ask. So the first thing it will ask for a workspace name. Let's see. Ask for a workspace name. Let's say I will name it my workspace. Then it will ask us what to create in the new workspace. We can, of course, create a totally empty workspace with a layout that works best for building applications. We can create a workspace with a single React application. We can create a workspace with a single Angular application, a workspace with a single Next.js application, or a single Nest application, or a single application built using web components. But we can also build a workspace with a full stack application using React and Express, or Angular and Nest. We can also use the OSS option to create an empty workspace with a layout that works best for open source projects, or nothing else, because that was the end of the list. So let's create a workspace with a single Angular application. It will ask us for the application name. I will say demo app. Default style sheet format, I will go with Sass. Default linter, I will go with ESLint. And should you use NX Cloud? It's free, doesn't require registration, and it gives you faster builds, run details, and GitHub integration? Of course, yes. So it will create a sandbox with an X. Let's move forward. It doesn't normally take that much time. Let's go in our workspace. If we open our workspace in VS Code, let's see a little bit the folder structure. We have the apps folder, which now has our demo app, which is a usual Angular application as you know it, with its app module and its app component. And here is also the demo app E2E, which is the Cypress test that we mentioned before. And it contains an E2E application written in Cypress. But there is also a libs folder, which is now empty, but we will fill in eventually. And there are some tools as well. The schematics folder, where we can add our custom schematics. And as we usually expect, there is the angular.json file and some presets for Jest, the package.json, the NX.json. And that's it. I mean, when you generate an NX workspace, this is what you get as a minimum. You just get, I heard a laugh.
No, it wasn't, wasn't the laugh.
I don't have
your mic.
I don't know.
No.
Your microphone's moving a little bit, so that gives off some noises sometimes.
I'm sorry about that.
Don't worry, Katerina. It's all yours.
Okay.
Go on.
You're doing a great job, and I like the demo also, where you just fill out all the examples on or not the examples, but the different frameworks you guys already support from within the NX setup. And it's just like pressing a couple of buttons and typing some stuff, and then it's done, right? You can just use it straight up.
Yeah.
Yeah, NX is awesome.
Yeah, and the thing is that you get an NX workspace, which is sort of a monorepo, and what it essentially does is it takes if you choose the Angular option like we just did, it will just take an Angular application and put it in the apps folder, and then whatever you create will go in the libs folder. And you also have your Angular JSON, which is what you're used to, but you also get the NX JSON for all the other options that you may need that are NX related. So this was the bare minimum example, but luckily some of my colleagues, I think Jason and other contributors, not I yet, have created the NX examples repository. And in the NX examples repository, there is a complete example of a monorepo with 2 apps, and you can test all the features there. And we'll see a short demo for the NX examples repository, which I hope it will blow your mind. So let's see my other. So as promised, let's take a look at the NX examples repository, which showcases all of the features that we talked about before. You can find it at this address on GitHub, narwhal/NX examples. So let's take a look what we have here. We have the NX examples folder, which has inside the apps folder, which has a cart application with its E2E tests, and the cart application, we can see that it's a React application. It also has a products application, which, as we can see, is an Angular application. And it also has sub-libraries. It has the cart library, which has inside some parts of the cart application. And it has a products library, which again has some parts of the products application, which we'll see in action in the browser. And it also has a shared library. In the shared library, it has some shared UI components that are used by both of the applications, like the header, which we will see is written in JSX. And some other utility libraries that like the JSXify. And if we take a look, it also has a library for state management, which uses NGRX. And then it has some other UI elements. So let's take a look. What do we see when we run the application? To serve first the cart application, we can do nx serve cart. And it will just run our local server. And we can see the application running, the cart application running in 4200 port. We can see the header here. Now, let's take a look what happens when we run, when the server stops and we're able to run. It does not want to stop, so we will give it a minute. Okay.
Relatable.
When we start the products application, and we refresh here, we see our products, and again, the same header. As we said, the products application, the carts application is a React application, and the products application is an Angular application. But the NX header that we saw, the shared header, is written in JSX, but it's exported, and we can see that we can import the same element like this in both our Angular application and our React application. And it's imported like this. Another interesting thing to see is that some of our applications, for example, all the applications that go in the cart, all the libraries that go in the carts application are written in React, just like our cart application, and the libraries, that's the UI libraries that go in the products, are usually written in Angular. But as we saw, we can have the shared libraries that are written, for example, in JSX. Now, let's take a look what happens. Let's wait for the server to stop. And let's take a look what happens when we run the dependency graph. So, yeah, usually it opens right. Okay, yeah. So the dependency graph for our application looks like this. Pretty more complete than the one we saw in the example application before, right? So we can see that the shared header, for example, which is used both by the products and cart, both the products and the cart application depend on the shared header. Again, the E2E tests, of course, depend on their applications, and we can see all the other dependencies that we have here. For example, the shared header is using the JSX file library, so it depends on this, and so does this UI library here. So in this nice way, we can see the whole dependence graph. We can choose to only see one application, or we can group by folder. Now, let's see. We talked about the affected command. Now, let's change something. Let's go ahead and change something in our header element. For example, let's change the background color from blue and make it red and save. Now, if we go and run NX affected depth graph, the depth graph will show us only these parts of our project which were affected by our change. Our change was in shared header, and both the cards application and the products application depend on the shared header. But the three applications for cards and products depend on the cards and products app respectively. So if we were to rebuild, retest, or rerun, these parts of the code that were affected would have to do the same thing again, would have to retest or rebuild. So this dependency graph helps us understand a little bit better. If we show the whole card, again, it will show us in red the parts that were affected, and we will have a general better understanding of how our whole code base is affected when we change some small thing. Okay, so that was the demo. I'm sorry that I had a video of it, but it takes off all the stress off when you have the live demo recorded.
Yeah, sure, but I like it. I like the way you just explain it so easily then. And so I'm more than happy to watch this as a if it just relieves you from the stress. So and you explain it pretty well. So thank you for that.
Yeah, really nice to see
that. And I think it really shows the capabilities of how my favorite is the affected graph, right? So, yeah. So let's see. So that was the demo. And I will say now it's sort of the end of the presentation. You can find us on GitHub, but I can show you a little bit the incremental building that I told you about.
Sure.
If I have time, I don't know how much time I have.
Yeah, sure. You have more than
plenty.
You got more than enough time. So
the floor is yours.
So can you remove my screen from the sharing one moment?
Sure, that's not a problem. So can I just give you some questions already from myself?
Sure. Yeah.
Sure. So I've worked with NX and I really like it. But could you tell our viewers like how easily it could be like migrating let's call it a basic Angular application as it is right now with the Angular CLI? Is it like doable, easy doable, or do you see from within the company that a lot of other companies are having difficulties adopting NX with this?
So it's super easy to go from, give me a second. It's super easy to go from an Angular application to NX workspace. You just have to do a command that's ng-add @narwhal/workspace. And this runs a series of schematics and a series of moving code and rearranging folders, and it just puts your Angular application into an NX workspace. It's
nice.
very simple. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah, and I know that a lot of big companies are transitioning to NX because it really, really helps manage large code bases and really, really helps teams work with each other. For example, since you have the shared libraries and the shared components, it's very easy for a large corporation to manage a lot of different styles and the components that different parts of the code may have in common. So it sort of imposes best practices to use this.
Yeah, great. I just want to pop out something because I see viewer from us that tells us like
Oh.
we converted about 20 existing Angular apps to one NX workspace. That's pretty awesome, right? That they did it. And we know Michiel, he's living in the Netherlands. He's like, for me, more on the right from the Netherlands, and I think for some also, by the way, for us,
For everybody.
for everybody that's here.
He's Eastern Netherlands.
Yeah, he's the Eastern Netherlands. So.
Good to see you, Michiel.
Yeah.
So should I share your screen again?
Give me one moment.
Yeah, sure.
I'm trying to find my notes as well because
Yeah, sure.
it's not easier if I have my notes.
Yeah, take your time. I'm just firing a question from one of our viewers. That's Thomas Nielsen. He says, it seems like the NX tool can be used for full stack structuring and build for any front-end and any back-end application. And I think that's true, right? Or at least for a couple of them already.
Well, what do you mean for any front-end and any back-end application? I mean, I'm not sure about the support of Spoon, for example, or Java, or I don't know.
Yeah, I think anything that's Node-based would be pretty easy to integrate in there. And if you can make a link from Node to like Java, it's not really too weird to think that. Then it might be possible, but it's a little bit more tricky than just a Node-based. Like Express is pure Node in its essence, and of course it's supported in that way, I guess. Yeah.
He means, by the way, React on .NET.
Oh, well, .NET. Yeah, that's. I don't know. That could.
I'm not sure about .NET either. Sorry.
Yeah. It should be doable, right?
It should be doable, but I'm not sure how. I'm not sure where to start.
Build a plugin and.
I guess. Yeah.
So one more moment. Okay, actually, I think I'll start sharing.
Yeah, just let me know when I can share your screen.
Yeah. Wait, I'll close a couple of. Oh no, I closed the wrong tab. Okay. So this part of the presentation.
Wait.
No, don't worry. So, come on. So this part of the presentation, you can start sharing my screens again.
Okay.
This part of the presentation, Jeff Cross, who is one of the founders of Narwhal, and I, we made it together and we presented it at NGConf. So this is mostly Jeff's work, but I think he's okay with me sharing it because it sort of advertises how perfect NX is. So I'm not taking the credit, but I feel like I have to share it with you because it's so amazing.
Oh, right? Great that you're already sharing it with us.
Yeah. So I'll try one more time to load my notes. I don't know. Okay, finally. So maybe my internet is slow. I don't know. Okay, so let's break down an example with a single application composed of many libraries to see how NX uses intelligent analysis of a code change and know what projects can be affected by that change. So remember, we talked about affected before. So let's take a customer service portal with these pages. You have the knowledge base, the chat, and the support tickets. And let's say we also have the new ticket page. This is one application, but we can partition it into several libraries that compose the application. And each section of the application can have its own features, but can be separated into even more libraries. For example, the new ticket feature that I told you about is the screen where tickets are created. And since those sections and features of the app will definitely share some components and utilities, we can extrapolate even more libraries, such as a design system and some utilities for communicating with the backend, like the validators, for example. In a real application, there would be many more ways to partition and share functionality between libraries, but let's keep it simple for the moment. So let's consider the lifecycle when a developer on a team wants to change the layout of the new ticket UI. they would make the code change inside the feature library, then open a pull request. If your CI tooling doesn't understand what changed and what its impact would be, it will naturally rebuild and retest everything. And as the project grows in scope, the total CI time will grow with it, as you see here. So as you grow and add more things and change one more thing, the total CI time just builds up and builds up. But what NX does is that it understands how your libraries and applications depend on each other in what it's called a project graph. So using the project graph, NX can look at what projects were attached in the code change, as we saw before, and determine what can be directly or transitively affected by your change. Then the CI can rebuild and retest only what's really affected by your change, saving a significant amount of time and work. So even though we're able to rebuild only 3 of these projects, those projects depend on unaffected projects. By default, its affected project will pull in the sources of its dependencies to build from scratch. But NX now supports the ability for libraries to be built independently, and consumers will consume the package's library instead of the sources. So this allows what we call incremental building. Incremental building really becomes powerful when you can cache and reuse the packaged libraries. So as you can already see here, you have the, let's make it a bit slower. So, no, it's not cooperate with me. Okay, so you have
always nice the demos, right?
So you have the native workspace time, and which is long as we saw in the beginning. And when you just build the affected builds, the build time is a lot slower. So if I build and test the new ticket library in CI and the design system and validators libraries have already been built and cached in CI's local cache, the builder can just build the source code inside the new ticket library without having to rebuild the source code from validators and design systems. So let's take a look at this example of building times for the 3 parts of our project. If a dependency of the target has been built, the build doesn't need to be totally fresh. So each individual part can use the cache to save building time. If we put the affected and parallel functionalities in action together with the incremental cache, our build time is practically reduced to a quarter of the initial. So let me move the incrementality. So yeah, if we put everything together, as we said, the result is a quarter of the initial, because we have all our apps together in the beginning, and then as we start the incremental build, it breaks down. So now let's take a look from how we started. No, I didn't want to stop. How can I pause this? Okay, so let's take a look now. No. Okay, so let's take a look from how we started and what we end up with. At each step, I want to pause this, but apparently I can't. Okay, I will just have it like this, sorry.
Yeah, sure, we can still see it, so that's not a problem. It's still fine.
Using Keynote.
It doesn't matter.
Where we started and how we end up with. At each step, our build time is reduced, and eventually, with the use of affected and parallel and incremental cache, our total CI time is as long as our longest parallel task, right? So it's pretty amazing, because when you would build like naively and normally as you would build any application, you would take all that time. When you build only the affected, you break it down. But if you add your agents and start building parallelly, then you break down even more. And when you put all this together, the affected, the parallel, and the incremental, then it's just as long as your longest parallel task, right? So what if CI didn't just have access to the cache that was generated on CI, but could access the output of commands that have already been run locally? So here comes the NX Cloud that we talked about before. If the developer had already run most of the commands that are run in CI, and were connected to a distributed cache, CI could check the distributed cache, this is the NX Cloud, to download and build those outputs instead of rerunning the commands. So this is the NX Cloud that I told you about before. Each one of the developers builds their thing independently. They're all up on the NX Cloud. And then when I try to rebuild something that somebody else has built, I fetch it from the NX Cloud. So now imagine if we put all of this together. So you put the affected, the parallel, the incremental cache, and the NX Cloud together, so your build time is practically minimized. So if we take a look at all of this together, then you end up with very, very small build time, which is amazing. And it can really, really, really help your corporation and the way you build applications and the way you actually deliver your products and applications. And this is why I told you that NX is amazing, and it's not only for Angular, it's not only for monorepos, but it also scales very, very well because you get all these tools. Practically, it's not uncommon to see 10x build performance improvements in CI. So in the end, actually, every developer, computer, and environment in your organization can benefit from being connected to the NX Cloud. So that was the, yeah, you can remove my screen now. So that was the presentation of the incremental building part.
Wow, great.
Thank you, Katerina. I really loved that the NX Cloud is on your wall, because every time you mention NX Cloud, you are pointing to it.
Yes. So let me show you my final slide where I have some. Okay, you can show my screen now. I have my final slide where I have my social links and the links to the slides that I showed today, where you have also all the links that you may need to use. So I think that was it, I guess, the presentation of NX. And I really, I convinced you to go out there and use it, because you saw all the from it.
Yeah. Well, great presentation, and thank you for being with us. We have some questions, but before we do that, we have some special things for our viewers, because it has been a while that we had a sponsor, but this time we have found a sponsor for our viewers. And let me share my screen, because we can do a giveaway, and we just voted in the how do you call it? In the Slack channels of the Dutch Angular group.
Randomly picked.
Randomly picked. So Wallaby, Wallaby contacted me, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, and they handed over some license so that people can use it for free for their own personal use. And Sander, you are having a lot of experience with Wallaby. Maybe you can introduce it a little bit to our viewers what it is.
Wallaby is a tool that enables you to do live coding in your editor. So you start your editor, you start coding up your test, and it gives you a direct feedback inside of your editor. So, and also console logs and everything works directly inside of your editor. It's an amazing tool to work with, especially for building tests, because it also runs the test for you and gives you the feedback of the test, so you can optimize your test a whole lot faster.
You can look at the screenshot that Jeffrey's sharing right now. You can see the little icons on the left side, the red and yellows and the greens, basically giving you a live indication of what's going on with that line. Yeah. Pretty cool, if you ask me.
So, and now comes the moment who we picked, basically, and I need to scroll a bit back. So let's see, and it was Marianne, and I hope I pronounced your last name correctly, Stoisia. If you're still there, just send me or Sander or Bjorn a DM on Twitter, or send us an email. Go to our website if you want, and we will hand you over this license. I hope you will enjoy your time with it, basically.
Woo! Congratulations, Marianne.
So back to NX, because I got still some questions. I saw some questions from our audience. Let me see. Where was it? It was a bit deeper. Yeah. So Ronnie, he asked already pretty early in your talk, like, is there any reference building Angular micro frontends with NX that you are aware of? Like good references or articles around it? And
yes, I think that Manfred Steyer is working on something related to micro frontends. I will look up the link and I will send it to Jeffrey, and they can post it in your community communication channel.
yeah, sure.
I think,
That is really cool because next time we have Manfred.
I think that's Manfred doing something with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. But
I also have a question. When is NX going to support Angular 11?
Pretty
Is there
soon,
on
I guess.
ATA?
I mean, NX usually goes, the NX versions usually go hand in hand with the Angular versions. I don't know, and I cannot say if this will go on, but at least for Angular 11, I'm pretty sure it will happen soon enough.
okay, great. So I've worked with your cloud environment. Even the Dutch Angular community website is already using NX and also using the cloud part, and even with Scully. So we're all in the community there. But is there also like a private cloud? Because I can see that a lot of companies don't want to use like the public one for the enterprise or the security reasons, etc.
Do you mean like an on-prem local solution?
Yes, yeah. So basically, your cloud app on-prem.
No, I don't think that's offered at the moment. I don't think that's offered at the moment.
Then out of curiosity, like, does NX earn, like, do you make profit out of that NX cloud? How does that, like, is that a business model for you as a company?
I don't know.
Okay, fair. That's easy. Yeah.
I'll tell you what. If I had paid more attention to some meetings, I may have the answer. But even if I had the answer, I'm not sure if I would be able to give it to you.
No, fair enough. It's fine. Yeah. Just wondering. Because I had exactly the same question.
Is not watching this.
No, but I think it will come when the people need it, right? And that's always what we see with Narwhal. If we need anything specific, and a lot of people are asking for it, it will come someday. So,
keep pressing, Jeff. Keep pressing him.
Well, I don't need it. I'm doing most of my things in open source. So I got a question that's maybe that I know already the answer probably too, but. When you generate an Angular application, you will get the Angular JSON file that is there. But if I add React to it, what will it do with my Angular JSON? Is it like still there? Is it still present? Because I've seen...
It will be renamed to workspace.json.
Okay, so you will just get a global thing that's not like Angular specific anymore from that point.
Exactly. So instead of Angular JSON, it will be called workspace.json, and the contents will be similar. You will get your architect and everything that you're familiar with.
Okay, great.
Then I have another one. Are there plans to going to support like an Angular CLI application that already has multiple applications there, or already multiple projects? Because right now, I believe that if you have an Angular CLI application with multiple projects in there, it doesn't migrate too well.
I don't know. I haven't tried it.
That's fair.
I haven't tried it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just scrolling to see if I didn't miss any questions, because that's always the thing with chats, right? That you just miss a couple of questions.
I can throw one in if you want.
Sure.
So I've also, I mean, it's my, I'm very new to using NX. I've literally started a week ago. And the one thing that I'm wondering about, like I've got a front end and back end part, but I'd like them to be separated. Like I all have them in the apps folder right now. But I'd like to have an API folder with separate microservices in there and a front end folder with like web stuff in there. Is that something I could easily do with NX, or am I breaking a convention at that point?
Yes. So when you generate, it will still be potentially, if you work like that, it will still be under the apps folder. But when you're generating a new application or a new library, you can always specify a directory where to put it in. So in your apps, you can have subdirectories, as you said, front end, and in the front end have all the front end apps. Back end, in the back end have all the back end apps. So you can do it like
all right.
this.
And I saw the NX move command. I didn't know about that, so I think that has something to do with that. So I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah. So if you already have your setup, you can use the move command to move them into subfolders.
Awesome. I'll have to check it out. Thank you.
Well, okay, I think we're then having everything. Well, wait, I just wanted to highlight one thing, because we still have tags, right, in the annex. Like the linting tags that you can use, also like restriction.
Yeah.
Maybe for Björn, you can even do the restrictions like team-based or component-based or specific feature-based.
I've seen that somewhere. I'm not sure where I saw it, but I've seen that.
You should definitely look it up.
Yep. Wasn't that an earlier talk we did or had here? Doesn't matter. I'll figure it out. I'll tweet about it. Cool. Thanks.
So can I say hi, James? I know James is on something. Let's say hi.
James Henry. Yeah, he even did for a rounder.net question. He even did it. Let me see, because he is somewhere. So he even did already build something with NX with .NET. So that's pretty cool. James, if you are out there still listening, I would love to see it someday.
I mean, if you just take this message out of context, there was a whole other conversation in front of it, because now it just looks like he's boasting. He's not. There's a reaction, a response to a question like, can you do applications outside of Node? Yes, you can. But yeah, it was good add on the conversation. Definitely thumbs up for the chat tonight.
Yeah. Well, okay, then we're done. Katerina, thank you very much for being here, and thank you for presenting us the Annex scalable apps with Annex. Again, I really love Annex, so I'm more than happy that you were here and that everybody was here. Thank you, Sandra and Björn, for being our panelist again, and thank you to all viewers. And Marianne, it was, I think. Don't forget to DM me for your license. See you all. Bye bye.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.